Okay, so hi guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lasitha. I'm a first year medical student at KDU University in Sri Lanka. So I'm currently waiting to sit my end of semester exams in anatomy, biochemistry and physiology. But because of this entire COVID situation, my exams have been postponed and we haven't got an actual date of when we're going to be sitting these exams. So I took this as an opportunity to tell you guys about how I study anatomy, what textbooks I use, what the different study techniques that I use to study and revise anatomy. So I'm going to start by telling you guys about the different textbooks that I use, and those include Gray's Anatomy, Last Anatomy, and Memoryx. So these are the three books that I normally use in university. So it is up to you guys which textbooks you really want to use. But I find these to be really good books that have helped me throughout my biomedical science degree when I used to study anatomy. So let me tell you why I find these books to be quite good for me. So this is Gray's Anatomy, and it's the perfect starter book for any medical student out there. So it comes with a lot of text, as you can see from the video, and alongside of it there are a lot of beautiful images which can be extremely useful, especially when you're not dissecting a human body or you're not in front of a cadaver and you're not able to understand what the book is trying to say. So those pictures can be extremely useful. So now this is a book that is recommended by many medical students just because it's very easy to read and to understand. So I do recommend you guys to start studying anatomy from this book. So this is Last Anatomy. It follows a very similar structure to the Gray's Anatomy textbook. It has a lot of text, and alongside the text you also see those very beautiful images which help to explain the text. It shows you the position of muscles, vessels, and nerves. So I wouldn't say this is a beginner's book. It's more for those of you who have studied anatomy before, just because the text can go into a little bit more detail. And finally, this is Memoryx Anatomy. It is considered to be the Bible of anatomy, just because it's very easy to read and to learn from. So as you can see, there isn't much text, which is obviously very good. It means that you don't have to waste a lot of time, you don't have to make notes out of it, and to make notes can take quite a long time. So now, this is a book that I normally use a few days before my examination, just because it gives me a full account of everything I need to know from anatomy. So let's have a look at an example. So this is the shoulder joint. It gives you a brief account of the type, the shape of the shoulder joint. It gives you the articular head, the articular fossa, as well as all the ligaments that are involved in the shoulder joint. Then it also talks about the accessory features and all the type of movements possible around the shoulder joint. So you can see that everything is given in one single page, which makes it so much easier to study and revise anatomy. So I recommend for any of you that want to have a nice textbook to revise anatomy from, to buy this book, Memoryx Anatomies. Okay, so the next textbooks that we need to talk about are the atlases. Now, what is an atlas? An atlas is a book that contains a lot of pictures of gross anatomy. So it's something that you normally tend to use alongside Gray's Anatomy or Last Anatomy. So now there are different types of atlases out there, and most popular are Natas, Sobota, and Grants. The atlas that I use is Natas, and that's because it's a textbook that you will tend to find in every medical school. It doesn't matter which medical school you go to, you will find a copy of that book. It's just so popular that every single medical school has a copy of it. You will find different pictures of the heart, shows you exactly where the blood vessels travel on the heart, or if you take the thorax as a whole, shows you where the different organs are situated within the thorax, all the nerves and vessels. So it gives you good appreciation of gross anatomy, which is something that you need to know, because especially at medical school, because you will get different tests for anatomy, and some of them are the spot tests. So now, what is a spot test? A spot test is essentially a test where your examiner is going to show you different specimens, different anatomical specimens, and you need to be able to recognize those structures. So how do you prepare for such kind of test? So that's where it's important that you use atlases in combination together with your main textbook, whether it is Grace or Memorex, etc. An atlas is definitely going to help you to pass those spot tests because it gives you an appreciation of where every single organ is found in the body. So if you then go and study directly from an atlas, you will definitely know where each organ is found, where each nerve and vessel is found. So when an examiner is going to point out a specific structure, you will definitely know, yes, that's that structure and this is that structure, and so on. So now I'm mentioning different numbers of textbooks: Gray's Anatomy, Memorex, Last Anatomy, as well as a series of atlases that you guys can use. But at the end of the day, it's all about what your university wants. Some universities out there, for example, the University King's College London, where I did my biomedical science degree, they were more open-minded and allowed us to use whichever textbooks we wanted to study anatomy. So we didn't have an actual core textbook that the university wanted us to follow. But the medical school where I'm studying medicine right now, they want us to use Last Anatomy, just because they take all the questions they are going to be asking during the examination directly from the book. It makes our life easier to study anatomy directly from that book rather than go to another book like Gray's Anatomy, just because anatomy can differ from textbook to textbook. So if your university is asking you, is recommending you to use one particular book, go for it. My advice for you is do not try to use 2 to 3 textbooks, because a lot of students do that. A lot of my classmates were doing that at the beginning of the year, and I advise them not to do that, just because medical school can be very, very hard, because it's impossible to cover all of that material together with everything else that you need to do in medical school. So that concludes my section on textbooks and where you should be studying anatomy from. So the next point that I want to talk about is drawing diagrams. So that drawing diagrams is very, very important to learn anatomy. So I can put this in the context of surgery, for instance. So if you're thinking of becoming a surgeon in the future, this is a vital skill that you need to be able to develop from the early days as a medical student. I mentioned earlier about atlases. These textbooks are essentially showing you very good gross anatomical pictures that is key for any doctor that is thinking of becoming a surgeon. But you need to be able to actively recall all of that information, and by just looking at an atlas, that's not going to happen. So what is that next step that you can take to improve your gross anatomical learning? By being able to do good drawings. So now when I say good drawing, it doesn't mean that you have to be Picasso or Van Gogh. All they're basically looking for is a diagram where you are being as specific as possible. So for instance, if you take the hand, now the hand has a lot of vessels and it has a lot of nerves which pass through the entire surface of the hand. So if you take a vessel which is normally meant to pass through this part of the hand and you draw it over here, that would be wrong. So you need to be as specific as possible, and if the vessel travels through this area, then you need to make sure that you're drawing it within this area of the hand. You have to be very, very specific in your diagrams, and that's all the examiners are going to look for. It doesn't matter whether the diagrams are flawless, as long as you put all the informations in you being as specific as possible with the positions of your nerves and vessels, and as well as the bones, you're going to be fine. But like I said, this is a skill that you need to be able to develop right from the beginning. So when I put this in the context of surgery, so let's take a cardiac surgeon for instance. A cardiac surgeon is meant to know the anatomy of the thorax really, really well. So, and you're not going to be doing that just from experience or by looking from atlas pictures. You need to be able to actively recall all that information while doing surgeries, because when you cut through the thorax, you need to know exactly what it is that you're cutting from. You need to know what it is that you're cutting, what organs are found underneath that tissue that you're cutting. So in order to recall all the information, I believe that drawing diagrams is the best way to do that. And you're going to be asked anyway at any medical school to draw diagrams. You will be asked to draw diagrams of cross-section of the arm, of the forearm, or of the thorax. So there'll be many opportunities for you guys to practice drawings, and I think it's something that you need to stick on, because it's important for examination, but also if you're trying to become a surgeon in the future. So that is all for today, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel for more and more content like this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.